Autotune, yay or nay? This has been a long time discussion in the music production community, practically ever since it was invented about 20 years ago and started to be used all over the place. Is it okay or is it not okay to use it to correct vocalist pitch, phrasing, timing, and so on?
We'll never see the light again, but I will keep on going till the end. Our ship has faced a hurricane, but I will keep on going.
But the reason why I'm talking about this right now is that because this issue got to me recently on a very personal basis, I decided that I want to take up my own vocal parts in my own album. Somewhere in this universe, somebody hits a drum, which we still work on, and I actually wanted to sing my own part rather than having another vocalist singing it for me. But the Autotune Yay or Nay kind of discussion really got to practical dimensions once I started to do that. I wanted to sound as good as I can without any kind of artificial help. On the other hand, even the greatest singers nowadays use Autotune. And I know some of them firsthand. They truly are great without any artificial aid. And they still use it. Why would they do so? And who am I to think that I'm better than them? So that made me come to the conclusion that there are a few scenarios that Autotune is legit. But maybe I should say first what is not legit in my view. It is not legit to use Autotune instead of practicing. It is not legit to use Autotune to compensate for lack of ability to sing. Because Autotune might make you sound better, and it could correct technically your pitch and your time and your dynamics and all that, but it will still not make you sound great, because singing is not just about correctness of the use of voice or correctness of pitch. It is really about expressing yourself, and Autotune cannot do that. So when is it legit to use Autotune? Well, some people say never, because it's sort of cheating, right? But then let me ask you this. I mean, if Autotune is cheating, isn't multi-track recording cheating? I mean, we don't really record everything at the same time live. We record different instruments at different times, sometimes different places, and we just mix them together to sound as if they were played together. Not to mention tracking the same guitar over and over again, taking a few takes. Isn't that cheating? Using reverbs. Maybe using a reverb in an acoustical environment that didn't have reverb in the first place is cheating. I mean, if Autotune is cheating, then pretty much all of modern production is a hoax. And then there's another sort of moral justification to using Autotune. I mean, in recorded music, we as performers, as artists, are expected to give a performance that is going to be heard over and over and over again. And for most of music history, this wasn't the case. I'm not saying there were no great performances before recorded music. I'm sure there were, but we don't really know how perfect they sounded in today's standards. And this is putting us musicians in a kind of a difficult position. We are expected to play live and still to make an unforgettable performance. And with all the little details, going through some very, very nasty filter, because eventually, sooner or later, if a recording is listened to over and over and over again, there's going to be this subconscious magnifying glass in the ears of the listener, and they're going to notice every little detail. That's why in the last 20, 30, 40 years of recorded music, there has been an evolution of this kind of hyper-realistic approach or philosophy that says that a record shouldn't really represent the real performance. It shouldn't represent reality, but rather sell a fantasy. And I kind of agree with that, and the audience tends to agree with that, because we know that the most selling records, the most popular records, not that I think the popularity is the only criteria, but still the most selling records sound kind of perfect. They sound really, shiny. And Autotune is a part of that. Add to that, there is no single recording nowadays of even the greatest singers that is not using some degree of autotune. It just became the industry standard ever since it was invented, pretty much. And it's kind of like gorgeous models, like going still through Photoshop. Why would they need to go through Photoshop? They're beautiful, right? It's the same thing. So it's kind of like a hyper-realistic standard that is just being used. And when you don't use it, depends on the genre, but in some genres, if you don't use it, it's just not going through, okay? Not good enough ever since the bar has been raised. So for me, this is why I chose to do both things. I don't believe autotune can compensate for lack of abilities. And that's why I really did practice my own vocal part. It was the first time that I take up a lead vocal, especially in a recording. I always love to sing. I always used singing for my own creation process, and I contributed some backing vocals or sang in less official kind of situations, but never really took a lead part, a lead role as a vocalist. And I don't even define myself as a vocalist now, but I did practice it enough to be able to sing it properly into a recording. And that took me quite a lot of time because it's also not a very easy part. So I really needed to work it up. But I did work it up to the level where I said, okay, this is in par with the rest of the music, the rest of the instruments, and now we just need like those final finishes. And that was the time when I decided, okay, this is okay to use now autotune.